right, I want to shout out to everybody who's watching online, especially Don. Thank you. I got a great email from Don, and he talked about his life and feeling lucky. He said he even named his cat Lucky, so we are on the same page. Okay, so you ready for my question tonight? So my question is, how clearly do you see your own future? Excuse me? That's my question. It's how clearly do you see your own future? And what if tonight I could actually teach you how to look and see your future? Because I believe that as a spiritual being, we have the ability to look into the future. If we quiet our mind and open our soul, we have the ability to see possibilities for our own life. And I think that most of us don't do it, but I think that we can actually have the capacity to look into our future and see what's ahead for us. Now, why would you not want to do that? Well, some of us live in fear, right? So some of us think it's better just not knowing, right? Let's just let that deal with it another day, and we'll just kind of kick that can down the road, and we'll just deal with it then. But I'm going to invite you to open a possibility that you could clearly see your future. And one of the first trips I took with my wife, Jill, was a trip we took from here up to Yellowstone. We met our friend Daniel Nahmod up there, and we spent a few days together up in Yellowstone. And on the way up there, we stopped at the Best Friends Animal Shelter. Everybody been there in Utah, the Best Friends Animal Shelter? We stopped there, and it's a fabulous place. So we stopped a couple of places along the way, and it was a great time. So I think it was the second or the third day, we're driving up there, and we stop at dinner time, and I'm like beat. I've been driving all day. She says, I'll drive for a couple hours because I'm a morning guy, and she comes alive after dark. I mean, she's half bad, I think. She just comes alive after dark. So we stop for dinner, and in my family, there's rules on how you do car trips, right? So there's the driver, and then there's the co-pilot. And the co-pilot has a lot of work, right? The driver's responsible for keeping the family alive, but the co-pilot really has all the other jobs. They're responsible for radio selection and finding the right song for the right moment. They're responsible for food and beverages. They are responsible when you used to have maps. They were responsible for everything else, right? So we stopped, and we got some burgers and stuff, and we're washed up, used the restroom, and we were getting back in the car to drive for a couple more hours because we wanted to get a little closer to Yellowstone that night. And the man not in the car next to us, the family in the car next to us, honks his horn and points at the roof of our car. He rolls down his window, and he says, "Look up." And I opened the sunroof. The sunroof had two parts, right? The fabric part and the glass part. I opened the fabric part, and there is our entire dinner on the roof of the car, right? And so I'm not even a co-pilot for 30 seconds, and I'm about to watch our shakes go screaming past us on the highway, right? So, and the man said, "Look up." And for the rest of the trip, that was the affirmation, right? Because if you're going by the Grand Tetons, it's helpful to look up, right? And what I want to talk about tonight is that if you want to see the best version of your life, you have to look up. Because sometimes in our life we get so involved in the nitty-gritty, we get so involved in the details, we get so involved in the tragedy right before us that we forget to look up and see a bigger possibility. We forget to look up and see what could be, and we continue to grind out the same experience over and over again, and we never look up. Scripture says it this way in Psalms 121, "I lift up my eyes to the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth, and indeed he watches over Israel. Neither does he slumber nor sleep." And there's something powerful about spiritually when we look up. Because we have this tendency to see what we always see. And sometimes we need to be challenged to look higher and see a greater possibility for our lives. So we've been doing this series for the last 4 weeks on conscious luck. And we began the series by just the opening affirmation, the idea of claiming ourselves as a lucky person. And when we change that mindset of looking at ourselves maybe as unlucky to lucky, it really changes what happens in our lives, right? Second week, we focused on releasing the personal barriers so that we could truly be a lucky person. Then last week, we focused on transforming the shame and the pain of the past, that we could be a magnet for luck. And this week, we're going to talk about revisiting the goals that we have in our life so that they're really worthy of luck. And R.A. Salvatore says, luck is simply the advantage a true warrior gains in executing the correct course of action. To create, and this is Gay Hendricks' book, Conscious Luck, and it's the framework that I'm using for this series. To create luck on a consistent basis, we need to give luck plenty of room to reason and a reason to visit. The fourth conscious luck secret focuses on our goals. It is often unrecognized way for us to attract luck. Our experience, both in our lives and in the work with our clients, has taught us a powerful lesson. Luck chases worthy goals. In this chapter, we're going to ask you to take a clear-eyed look at your goals and how you can give luck a better reason to visit your life. So the question then becomes, if you were totally lucky, if you felt like you were living under a lucky star, if you were totally lucky, what would you be doing? What would you have that you're not doing or having now? Because what I want you to see is the greatest way we can see the future is through our goals. Does that make sense to you? That the greatest way we see our future is actually to create our future with the goals that we put into action. Because through our goals, we actually create a new reality. You know, through our goals, we can turbocharge our life. In this chapter, he talks about 3 things to really turbocharge your goals and make your goals really more meaningful. And the first one is that your goals need to be deeply meaningful for you. Sometimes we create goals that we're not really passionate about, that are really just kind of throwaway goals. But when we have goals that we are truly passionate about, that are deeply meaningful for us, it's so much easier to create those goals because every day we want to be about that. He also talks about goals that light you up and allow you to really live the best version of you. And the third aspect is that your goals should be really beneficial to you and at least one other person. And that as we create those experiences, we move forward. So your homework, I'm going to start out right now and give you your homework. Your homework for this week is I want you to create 3 goals that fill that bill. I want you to have 3 goals that are deeply meaningful for you, that light you up, and that are beneficial to you and at least one other person. Because true goals actually get us closer to who we've come to be in the world, right? Goals are where we see our future unfolding right before us. And I want you to have big, fat, fabulous, wonderful goals that require you to take a deeper relationship into God. Tony Robbins says this, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. Jack Canfield said it this way, successful people maintain a positive focus in their life no matter what's going on around them. They stay focused on the past successes rather than the past failures, and on the next action step they need to take to get closer to the fulfillment of their goals rather than on being distracted by life's present condition. Goes on. The longer you hang in there, the greater the chance that something will happen in your favor. No matter how hard it seems, the longer you persist, the more likely of your own success. See, our goals really are our map to the future. They actually allow us to move forward. So can you think of at least 3 desires, 3 goals that you have that are deeply meaningful for you. Do you know what the definition of despair is? Anybody want to take a shot at it? You know what the definition of despair is? What? Not caring? Close. Despair is defined as living without hope. Right? That when you live without hope, that is by definition despair. And what I want you to see is that when you're in any level of despair in your life, you do not write goals because you've given up. You have no hope for a better possibility. You have no hope for a better world. You have no hope for your family. And so what happens is we actually stop writing goals because our hope has died. And what I want you to see tonight, what's so important, is that as we reactivate the power of hope as a spiritual practice within our lives, we actually open the possibilities for God that before, without hope, that we never access, that we never live into. That God has given you a vision for your life, a possibility for your life, and your goals are the benchmarks. They're the road markers along your journey that moves you forward. And I don't want you to create goals that were appropriate for you 20 years ago. I don't even want you to create goals that were appropriate for you 10 years ago. I want you to create goals that inspire you every day today. Like if you looked at your future, does your future scare you or inspire you? Does your future cause you to get up excited about your life? That wherever you are on this life journey, whether you're just starting out or if you want to play to the end, I want you to look at having goals that make sense to where you are today, because they are the map that allows you to get there. And they need to be deeply meaningful. They really need to begin to move you forward, to move you out of a sense of hopelessness and into a possibility of what could be. And they need to be specific. Like your goals need to be as specific as it's important to you. Like if your goal is a new car, right? If all you care about is that it starts, right? If that's all you care about, then I want you to write that down as your goal. I want a car that consistently starts. And there was a time in my life where that would have been a step up, right? Right? That it would have been a huge step up. To have a car that consistently started would have been fabulous, right? But if you feel like you've already mastered that level of creation and you want to move up, then move up. If you want it red, great. Let's make a goal that it's red. If you want it to be Italian, let's make it Italian. Right? It's you get to decide. If you just want to make sure it has 4 wheels most of the time, then put that down. But it needs to be as specific as it needs to be for you, because it's hard to visualize what you're not clear about. How many of you have ever had a friend that has a hard time making a decision? How many of you have ever been that friend? Like I have a friend, and her favorite restaurant is the Cheesecake Factory. And it's a painful experience. Last time we were there, it had 16 pages in their menu. Do you know how long it takes a person who doesn't like to be clear and make decisions to get through 16 pages of a menu? Like the place is closing and she's trying to order, right? And then if she orders dessert, there's like 54 different cheesecakes. I'm lost for a week. Like it's a 2-week commitment, right? So what I want you to see is that you have to get so specific on what's truly meaningful for you. Like, what is it that you really want? Because if God is infinite, God doesn't care about the details. If you have greater good in your life, it doesn't take it away from anybody else. But you have to be able to hold the vision, the map of your future. You have to be able to see into your future and see yourself getting happier, healthier, that you're becoming more prosperous. And that as you set these goals for your future, you can actually live into them because you're holding a mental map of what could be. And the second point is your goals should light you up. One of my favorite quotes, I'm going to give you some of my favorite quotes tonight. One of my favorite quotes is reported to be from John Wesley. And John Wesley was a minister back in the 1800s, and there's some discussion, if you will, that maybe he didn't really say this. And I don't care. It is such a good quote. I'm going to let him say it, whether he actually said it or not. And what the quote is, his quote is saying, light yourself on fire with passion, and people will come from miles around to watch you burn. I love that. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, if you have somebody in your life, who do you want to have in your life? Do you want people that are on fire with their passion and making things happen? Or do you want the people that are just living in despair? Because they stopped believing. They stopped having hope. They got so scared about their future, they just shut the whole thing down. I want you to be that person that's so on fire with your passion that every day there's a reason for you to get up. Every day there's a reason for you to make your life better and better and better. So I want you to think about one goal tonight. One of the three. I want you to have three. At least three. Now, can you have 37? Don't get greedy. Just let's start with three. Right? Just let's start with three, right? And I want you to pick one of those goals. Does everybody have at least one goal that lights them up and that they're passionate about? Okay, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to see yourself living that possibility, living that reality. I want you to relax into that without any sense of anxiety or fear or concern or self-doubt. I want you to just relax into that vision. And I want you to imagine as you say your goal out loud, if you say it silently to yourself, not out loud, just say it silently to yourself. I am, and then express your goal. And imagine you're just dropping that into a deep well. And see if every part of you says yes to that. Your mind, your heart, your soul says yes to that possibility. And we give thanks for that. In Jesus' greatest miracles, he gave thanks even before he saw it, even before the outer situation changed. He said, Father, I give thanks, for I know that thou hearest me always. So tonight we give thanks for the fulfillment of your goal even before anything's changed. But simply by holding that goal in your mind and heart, it is truly already done. So I want you to come back to this time and this place, and I want you to just feel that, right? That you have the ability to hold any image in mind and heart and watch that image take form. That Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine. And he did it at a wedding, which is the idea of the masculine and the feminine coming together, right? And the masculine and feminine in us. It is that divine idea that whatever we hold in consciousness, it becomes a reality. And the second aspect is that your goals should light you up, right? And the third aspect of your goals should be worthy and a benefit to you and to others. Armand Hammer, the great philanthropist, said this, I believe that we are here to do good. One of my other favorite quotes is George Bernard Shaw, who said this, I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the community. And as long as I live, it is my privilege to do whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die. For the harder I work, the more I live. Life for me is no brief candle. It is sort of a splendid torch that I have gotten a hold of for a moment. And I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it off to the future generations. Gautier said this, until one is committed, there is always hesitancy, the chance to draw back. always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiation and creation, there is one elemental truth, the ignorance of which kills countless splendid ideas and plans. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves in. All sorts of things occur to one that would never have otherwise occurred. A whole stream of events issue forth from the decision to rise into one's favor. All manner of unforeseen incidents, meetings, and material assistance which one could never have dreamt of. When one comes, that whatever one can do or dream, begin it. For boldness has genius, power, and magic. I want you to create your future. I see too many people right now that are frightened of the future, that are worried about this or worried about that or worried about the other thing. And what I want you to truly hear me say tonight is that you have been given the power of God to create a possibility. If we look at the Old Testament, we see incident after incident where there was promises made about the promised land, a land of milk and honey, that all the land that was going to be given to the Israelites. Well, I want you to see that as a metaphor for your life, that God has written you a check, a blank check, if you will. But it doesn't really help you if you don't take that check to the bank. If God is infinite, and we live in lack and limitation because we've never had a vision big enough that it really inspired us to live into, we really miss the point. We miss the benefit of our relationship with God. Tonight, I'm going to invite you to have 3 goals. And you can have more, but I want you to have at least 3 goals. I want those goals, each one of them, to be truly meaningful for you. Like, truly meaningful. I want them to light you up from the inside out. I want them to really bring forth the best that is within you. And I want them to be beneficial, not only to you, but to the world around us. Because what I know to be true is if you're living your best life, you can't help but inspire the people around you. And it's time for us to come back to hope. It's time for us to move out of this despair that we've known and move into a level of hope for our future that is unlimited. Because as spiritual people, when we allow despair to take over, we have robbed ourselves of our future. Tonight, 3 goals that are so meaningful for you that you're willing to get up every day and live them to their fullest. Are you willing to do that? Will you pray with me? And I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God that is within us and all around us. Tonight I want you to have 3 goals that are describing, mapping your future. I want you to see your future as a possibility that is greater than you've ever lived before. That you're going to be happier, healthier, more prosperous, more alive, more loved, and more loving than you've ever been before. That your future is great because you decide your future is great. So in the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen. God bless you all. Have a great night, and thank you for being here.